you're the captain of your ship, right? But if there's nobody at the helm, right, you can have the most powerful sailboat or ship or whatever you want. If you just let go of the wheel and you're sitting in the passenger seat, it's going to drift.
All right, brothers, welcome back to another episode of the IgKnight the King podcast. Welcome, G. Russell Reynolds.
Sunday. It may
Monday,
not be
Monday. Tuesday?
Right.
What day is it? I'm in Hawaii. I don't know what day it
Tuesday.
is. Tuesday. It's a good day.
Like Sunday at the Jesus Dome. Baptism and monster truck rally. If you've ever been to Texas, you see these mega churches that look like shopping malls. That's a real possibility.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, I digress.
Went to church the other day. That was nice.
In Hawaii?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, right on the beach. It was inside, and then they had outside tent set up for streaming the inside service. And their church is right on the water. Very cool. Beautiful. The worship was great. I love when they bring song and music and prayer that way. Yeah. The message was good. It was a little intense, but maybe that'll come up in this episode. We'll see. We have a really important and potent topic to discuss today. Default versus desire. There's so much to unpack in here. How many you men out there are living life by default? Yeah, based on the circumstances in your life, thinking that this is the way that it is. And how many of you are actually tapping into desire and what you desire and living from a place of desire, what you would love? How many of you taken the time to actually even define that or even know what that word means? I think we'll get into that today as well. And to actually have a way to tap into that on a regular basis, because men, we are not, this falls into our pain of Groundhog's Day that we talk about, where we're just living life by default, going through the motions, ho-hum, all those energy neutral energetics we talk about, where we're just kind of allowing life to happen to us, not for us. I mean, we can talk about it in so many different ways, but this is where we want to take our journey today in how to live life through your desire, not just by default.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you're the captain of your ship, right? But if there's nobody at the helm, right, you can have the most powerful sailboat or ship or whatever you want. If you just let go of the wheel and you're sitting in the passenger seat, it's going to drift. And
you're going to go in circles.
Who knows where?
Yeah. Got to have the goal, right? Got to have the destination. And you talk about the boat. It's a great example where we often get so caught up in the boat itself, right? The vehicle that's going to get us somewhere, that we don't actually have the somewhere outlined, right? We focus so much on what's going to take us there, what we need to make, what we need to do, but yet we're not focused on where we're actually going. So how the hell do you know if you get there or not, right? So that's, I think, where desire comes in. Maybe start out, I would love, Russell, for you to hear. I know you've taken some time to do some deeper reading and research on desire, and specifically the word desire, where it comes from, and maybe some more context we can set up for our deep dive here.
Yeah. So a book that I referenced before that I was reading on prosperity, they talked about the word desire at its root means of the Father. I'm like, really? I don't know that that's true. So I looked it up. The Latin root is desiderate, which actually means to long for or to require. And the second part of the word means of the stars. So to long for what is heaven sent, that's where they're getting of the Father. It's a little bit of a liberty, but
we'll let it slide.
Yeah, it's fine. So to long for what comes from higher realms, right? Yeah. And do we believe that this is it, that we are the source of all, or again, is there a higher power at play? And we're not getting religious. Don't worry, relax. But if you think that you are the highest power in your life, you're either arrogant or stupid. I'm just saying it. It's just Michael knows that I have no filters.
I'm just
There's
gonna laugh
something
on
much
this
more
one.
intelligent than us
Right.
that has created this world, that has created, just if you study the human body at all, which Michael has as a doctor, if you study the human body at all, you will understand that it's not even a possibility that there is no intelligent design.
Right.
So if we can create or call forth the life that we desire, which is the thing that we long for or require, that is coming from a higher realm, heaven sent, then why wouldn't we? And we have been taught wrongly that desire is either sexual, which is not saying it's not, but that's not all that it is, or that it's selfish. That's a big one. That's a big mistake. That's a big fat effing lie.
Agreed.
That desire is selfish, because your desire, if as long as it does no harm to others, if your desire is to blow up a building with a bunch of people in it, check yourself for sure. But if your desire is for the greater good for yourself, so that you may be of greater service to others, or for the greater good of all concerned, that's God calling through you. That's that higher intelligence, whatever you want to call it, calling through you, acting through you, seeking fuller expression through you. Why would you deny that?
I think a lot of people don't even know how to tap into desire, right? I think we're so overwhelmed, overflooded with fake shit, just to be frank about it, that one's ability to even tap into what they're feeling about something is so distorted.
Right.
And I know we're going to take that turn already, but it's like, man, how hard is it to even just to like tap into our desire, to know what we want or feel? It's hard.
Yeah, and to really pinpoint it, because we're so distracted.
There you go.
And again, here's my tinfoil hat. I need to get a tinfoil version of the IgKnight ball cap.
I'm going to make you a tinfoil hat you can put on, so we know that part of the episode. That part of the episode we know we're going there. For those of you who don't know, Russell lives inside a Faraday cage. It looks like a brick wall, but it's actually a metal cage he lives inside. He didn't deny it, so
no, I'm not denying it. If you saw what was directly outside of screen, outside of the frame of my screen, you'd be inspired or frightened, one or
both.
So, again, with the tinfoil hat, that distraction is by design. Because the more distracted we are, the less focused we are, the less powerful we are, the easier we are to control.
You might live life by default.
Bottom line. Think about the difference between a water sprinkler in the front yard, those old rainbow ones, like you've got the multiple streams like a rainbow back and forth, versus a fire hose.
Right.
What's the difference? Focus. All right. Focused desire, focused intention. So can we call forth that desire? And like Michael said, the first part, what do you want?
Right.
What do you really want? And not the bullshit that everybody else has told you should want. Not what everybody else wants for you. What do you want? What do you want for your life? What would you love? What would you really love? What would bring you joy? What would be the kind of life that has you jumping out of bed in the morning because you can't wait to start your day? And I would venture a guess that the majority of us are not living that life.
Yeah. If I could jump in for a second, because we're painting a big picture that I think at first is so hard to connect to. And hopefully by the end of this episode, men are like chomping at the bit to claim their desire. But I think it's important to just recognize that even in the small ways, like when someone says, hey, what do you want for dinner? I don't care. I don't know. What do you want? And it's like, no, you have an opinion. You have some kind of desire in there. And in fact, I mean, I think a lot of men think, oh, I'm just going to give it up to this person, what they want. I'm fine. I'll go along with it. Pleaser energy. And maybe for a meal or two, that's not a big deal. But it's like, it's like, I know it's like, hey, I'm going to make you a sandwich. What do you want? Oh, I don't care, whatever. And it's like, no, that actually makes it much harder for me to
Right.
fulfill your desire, because you're not telling me anything. You're not claiming it. You're trying to be easy, but it's not easy, actually. It's actually avoidance of intimacy, in my opinion, where we're not actually sharing what we want and allowing someone to fulfill that. Right.
And guys, speaking of intimacy, don't do that with your women. You think it's I mean, there's pleaser energy. You think you're giving them what they want. It's not. It's like when she asks, what do you want? I don't know, whatever you want. Where do you want to go? Wherever you want to go.
Oh yeah,
what
don't do that.
I want a man with balls.
Right.
I want a man that can make a fucking decision.
Exactly.
That can lead me so that I feel safe. That's what a woman wants.
What she really wants is for you to get to know her desire. So when it's time for a decision, you've already calculated that, and you're providing an experience where she's like, boom. How did you know?
Boom.
Because I listen. I pay attention. It's my desire as a man, my duty as a man, to provide, to protect, to procreate, to create these experiences that you love. Because the greatest joy in giving a gift is giving it, right?
Right.
And not receiving it. So
and you tapped on something when you said it's my desire, it's my duty as a man. Men, and I've tried to explain this to women, like, we truly live to please you. Like, we want to fulfill you. It is our greatest desire.
Right.
And that's bitten us in our ass. And I'm going to explain how. Because
this is the ass biting segment of the podcast. I'm listening with bated breath. Here we go.
I think in society previously, when it's a much more dangerous world, when there's tribes that could, come in and rape and pillage, and like there was a different role between men and women, and men took the lead. They had a role to be providers, to be protectors, to be procreators. And there's a level that we've reached. It's like, okay, women are safe. They don't have to be afraid of being raped and pillaged by the, I mean, still there's crime. Yes.
Right.
But it's a different world now. We have airplanes, right. We have cars, women can work, women can vote. Not saying they shouldn't, they should. But the downside of that is there is now this subversion where women say, we don't need men.
Yeah.
Well, we fucking live to be needed. Like, we want to serve.
Right.
Right. We actually want to serve and protect the feminine. And if we're not needed, you don't need us for anything. Well, okay. What do we do? I guess we'll just sit around and play video games and drink beer and smoke weed. It's like, whatever, right? This is right. The downside of it. So we have, and even our past generations, I remember it was said our parents worked really hard so we don't have to. So we don't. Right. That's the downside of that, right?
Yeah.
We've said before that hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create strong time or hard times.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the cycle. So if we now have a society of weak men without direction, without purpose, without desire, because they don't even know who they are, no less what they're supposed to do or what they want. You see the problem?
Yeah. I think there's a distinction too between desire and pleasure.
Yes,
which you're hitting 100%. On. Desire. Oh, I desire this cake. No, that's more of a pleasure thing, and that gets an addicted lover, right? We're in that lover season where it's just like indulgence, and and I see it here. I know you were recently in Hawaii as well, on Oahu, and at a resort, and you're just seeing gluttony and consumption and just because it's there and available, right? And what I get, I have a different perspective when I come to Hawaii, but it's like, we're on an island, right? And resources are actually very limited and expensive, and to not be wasteful and to really take in fully what is there instead of just, I'm going to eat all this because I can, and it's just yeah. I know you have a lot to say on this.
Well, just at a resort, it's a lot worse, I'm sure. We were at a resort, and I mean, I did whale watching tours every day without ever leaving the beach. It's like, good Lord.
Right.
You know, and just people get in the state of gluttony, people get in the state of settling, people get into, again, living for pleasure rather than purpose.
Right. Yeah. Or
What's your
searching for a
purpose?
feeling, right?
Yeah.
And underneath that insulation, because some notes we took for this call is you know, one, what would you really love, but like, what are you willing to give up what's keeping you stuck, right? It, so like people that are overweight, like, are they willing to give up the poison, the food, the thing that's keeping them there? Because I would venture a guess that most of them don't love being that size or that unhealthy or having the low energy.
Right.
I'm sure they do, right? There's a deeper desire, or I would even venture to say a calling to be more, right?
Well, again, we break down the word desire. It is a longing for or a requirement of something greater, something that comes from the stars, right? Something that comes from the heavens. So it is something greater than what you are now, than what you have now. So it is a fuller expression. If we just give in to impulse and pleasure, we never get to the greater.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to be healthy and in shape. Okay, well then you have to stop eating every time you feel the impulse to eat. You have to eat this healthy, seemingly bland food compared to this sugary chemical crap that you've been stuffing your face with. And you're going to have to go through a lot of pain by going to the gym and working out and staving off those impulses.
Right.
Are you willing to do what it takes to get the results? And for most people, no.
Yeah.
And that's where the why has to be greater than, you know, the how or the creature comfort that you've been giving into.
Yeah, and just to color this a little more with some context, I just want to acknowledge how hard it can be when you are coming from that place, yet maybe you're in a group situation where that's not what's happening. And do you go along with what's happening even though it's not aligned with your values? And that could just be what you eat or something far worse, right? How often do we just kind of go along with the group?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, tinfoil hat part of the episode, how many people in our world, our country, are just going along with the masses, right? And what the masses are saying could be completely wrong, but yet we don't want to stick out. We don't want to go and walk in the other direction and say, no, something in this doesn't feel right to me. So again, desire is tapping into that innate feeling, right, of where we're drawn. But how many, I'm sure you probably sent them to me, those experiments where they do videos of like waiting rooms and doctors' offices, and they have everyone in on it where they're standing up every like 20 seconds and sitting back down. And they have like the other people come in that aren't in on it, and they just start standing up and sitting down with everyone because everyone's doing it, right? It's just like, wow, like how quickly, what amazes me is how quickly people will fall in line or default to whatever the current thing is.
Yeah.
Right.
Or or the videos where they get onto an elevator where 5 or 6 people are on the elevator already, and everyone's facing the door when they get on, and then everybody turns their back and faces the back wall of the elevator. And the person who's not in on it kind of looks around and joins the herd and turns and faces the back wall and doesn't even know why.
Right.
Because
and never says anything. Hey, why are you all doing that?
Yeah, exactly.
Default versus desire, right?
Right.
I want to introduce another word because I think it really impacts our work, and we talk, the framework of the hero's journey, but we talk about in the lover energy being the call to adventure, and I'm sure we'll do a whole episode on or multiple on the hero's journey, but talk about desire, but we also talk about the calling, right? Mm-hmm. And this plays into what you're talking about with men and purpose and wanting to provide and to protect and to fulfill those desires of the feminine and in our relationship. But there needs to be some calling that we're literally being called to. And I think that falls into this desire piece of like, there's something greater that we're not just in that Groundhog's Day default. Now all of a sudden I'm retired and this is what I should do and going through the motions. So I'm curious if you could add some piece onto that.
Absolutely. That goes into inspiration, right? Inspired, to breathe into. Inspiration is literally the breath of God breathing life into us, breathing that greater desire, that calling for more. Mm-hmm. Who are you to deny that? You've been called into action. You know, what's the saying again? Guys, don't get me wrong. I'm not a religious scholar by any means. But something that many are called, few are chosen, or something along those lines. Somebody who is a scholar can fix that for me. But I think that it's few that choose. Like many of us we're called to this feeling of something greater, this desire for greater, fuller expression of our life, our finances, our mission, our purpose, whatever it may, our health, whatever it may be. But the creature comforts, the less than, the not good enoughs, the behavior of the sheep, and all stifle that desire, all stifle that inspiration. And we don't act on it. And end up living a life of mediocrity, just waiting to die. And that's a horrible existence. Yeah. I heard somebody say once that and I may have mentioned this in a past episode, that the definition of hell is meeting the person that you could have become.
Right.
That's a gut punch. Because look, you know you're capable of more than who you are right now. You know you're capable of greater expression, greater purpose, greater income, greater health, great, whatever it may be. You know you're not working hard. Like you think you're working hard, but hard is relative. If we aim for Kaizen, right? Constant, never-ending improvement. If we're aiming to always be better, and think about your life right now. What was once hard is now easy. I think about going to the gym. What was once hard is now easy. So we develop this ability, right? And there's an element of believing that we're capable and that we're deserving that play into this for us to act on that desire.
Yeah, that deserving piece is probably really important, because I could feel men out there, feeling selfish to have desires.
Yeah, that's that lie that we've been programmed with to keep us playing small.
Because the bottom line is, you do have desire. And you do have preference, and you do have opinion, and you do have things that the way that you like it. And how often are you defaulting or actually claiming, this is how I like it, this is what I want, right? And taking yourself through that process or clarity to actually, one, know what that is, and two, be able to communicate that, right? And vice versa in a relationship, right? Like, what do you desire? The question we've been asking a lot this season is, what do you desire? What would you love? We talk about that in relationship, in intimacy, in sexuality, in career, in vocation. It's like, what would you love, right? And the cool thing is, the way that this works is like, when you make that powerful claim, things literally reorganize to provide that to you, right? Yeah. So, like your example you've been giving around social media, I think it was in our last episode, where it's like, if you're flooding yourself with those images and stories that frankly aren't very positive, then you're just going to get more of that same, because you haven't actually claimed what you are putting in front of you. Then don't be surprised you're getting exactly what you're putting out there, right? So this is an important self-check of like, what am I actually consuming, right? And I feel like you have something you want to riff on.
I just want to say, for guys listening to this right now, don't just engage in passive listening like you're only kind of half listening. Stop right now and ask yourself, what do you really fucking want? What would you really love? And most people can't answer that question. When we ask a lot of men that, they're like, well, I would kind of like. No, I didn't ask what you would kind of like. What do you
or what they don't want?
Right. Yeah. What do you really desire? What is the highest expression of your life? Aim big. Like, what do you really, really want?
Yeah.
And pinpointing that, once you know what that thing is, and you'll know it, by the way, when you find it, I believe you'll know it, because one, it's going to resonate. It's going to give you goosebumps. It's probably going to scare the shit out of you.
Yeah.
And that part of you that's scared is all the not good enough nonsense that you've been programmed with. The truth of you is the one desiring it.
Yeah.
The truth of you is the one that's inspired by it. So don't buy into the
then
fear.
takes action, by the way.
And then takes action, because once you know what it is, you can plot the course from where you are now to how to get there. And there's countless stories of the greats in whatever field it was that started from nothing with no resources and made a decision to pursue the life of their dreams, to go for what they really desired. As Joseph Campbell says, to follow their bliss.
Right.
And out of nothing and nowhere, boom, that life was created. So what's stopping you?
Well, I got one. I'm going to throw another D word out. We've been talking, desire and default. A lot of men deflect, right? And whether that's through wounding or a shield or a barrier or not knowing how to take something in, I think a lot of men will deflect their desire, or maybe they'll act on it. Maybe if it's like a sexual desire or something like that. But just even in receiving gratitude, we talked about how, getting a little bit of acknowledgement goes a long way for men, right? But how many people in general, when they receive maybe a positive reflection, deflect it? Or classically, when someone says thank you, you're like, no, thank you. How about just saying you're welcome?
Yeah.
Right. How
Don't
about
worry about it.
Right. No big deal. Right. No problem. Yeah. But it's like, we just rattled off 4 of them right there. But how many men are doing that on a daily basis and minimizing their impact? Well, deflecting the acknowledgement that they're most desperately actually seeking. Right. So it's a zero-sum game if we do that.
Right. And I think that, when we talk about that, acknowledgement does go a long way. We want to know that we're making a difference. It's not like, oh, you're such a good boy, pat on the back. It's we want to know that we're making a difference. We want to know that we're emotionally impacting our women specifically. We want to feel desired by our women as well as have our desire for our life on our own, right? So that acknowledgement goes a long way.
By the way, man, it goes both ways.
Yeah.
Kind of pro tip right there.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no. It's true. No, you just got me thinking about all the possibilities of how that goes both ways. If your woman gets dressed for the night, comes out, and it's a dress you haven't seen before, even, you know what? Honestly, guys, it doesn't matter if you have seen it before. And you go, is that a new dress? And she says, yes, like waiting for the acknowledgement. And you go, how much did you spend on that? You've missed it.
Yeah. My wife doesn't have any of this. This is if I miss the compliment, she'll be like, "Can you go back out and come back in and try that again?" She'll give me that grace. She's like, no.
Go
out and come back in.
You're going to do this again.
Yeah.
Got
to expand that vocabulary.
Yeah, and just little nuances. That dress looks beautiful. Not quite as effective as you look beautiful.
Right.
You make that dress look good.
Exactly.
That's different.
Very different energy there. This is a muscle we got to build, man. Yeah. I mean, this is not in our, I don't want to say not in our DNA, but it's not how we speak to other men, right? I mean, how often do you say to men, "Hey, that's a real good looking shirt you got on there, man"?
Yeah, well, I never say to men, "You make that dress look good." Never, ever will I say that.
My point is, once I get over laughing here, is we have to practice this, right? We have to practice desire. And, you have desire, you have wants, you have a calling, you have things that you would love. I think in every actionable we do on these episodes is, have you written it down? Yeah. Have you shared it? Have you taken inventory or stock in what it is that you would love? Right? Yeah. Even just speaking that out loud, again, psychobabble bullshit here, metaphysical, changes the vibration of your heart field, which then impacts what attracts and resonates, use the word resonate earlier, into your field and the people, the places, and the circumstances that will then show up to accommodate what was spoken.
Right.
It always comes back to these very simple, profound truths and how universal intelligence and innate intelligence and how they work together and how we, I know you've been deep diving Joe Dispenza. You were recently at the biohacking conference he spoke at, and started out as a chiropractor, right? But getting alignment is really what he ultimately is talking about, right? Alignment within yourself, alignment within your heart and the field of the heart to then be
And
the generator. What's that?
And that higher intelligence,
that higher
greater
intelligence,
power.
right? The universal and the innate coming together. And then from there, it's like, yeah, spontaneous healings can happen, manifestations that seemed impossible. Why? Because it lives on that channel. And that channel, the core of that channel is desire. You have to be able to speak to what you love and not deflect it and actually be able to ultimately verbalize and put into word what it is. Right. So, such a powerful, and you could probably add a little bit from your experience of that with him, but that was to me like just confirmation. And he has so many examples of healing and different things that have happened that it's pretty much undeniable at this point. I think we're all in agreement with that.
Yeah, I would posit that, man, you can have, do, or be anything you want.
Yeah.
You have a desire, you have a means to make it happen. That's why that desire, that inspiration was put into your heart. Not just to tease you because it'll never come to be. You have the means to make it happen. So whether that's through, again, we mentioned in the last episode, forgiveness, releasing all of your resentments, really honing in on what it is that you really want. And I have a secret. I'm going to give them the cheat codes. I'm going to give them the cheat codes on how to create the life that you desire. Ready? Stop fucking settling. Stop settling in your life. Stop settling with what you take from others or from yourself. Stop settling.
I'm going to add stop complaining.
Yeah. Well, like we've accepted our conditions. Screw that.
I think it's important.
Strive for greatness.
I want to also add here, because you're hitting on a really, really important thing here. Thank you. Because there's a lot of men out there that maybe are in a bad place. They're not like, oh, how can I make my life that much better than it already is? But like, man, I'm in a really fucking hard place right now. Maybe the relationship ended. Maybe the business ended. Maybe got a diagnosis that they have to now deal with because of lack of taking it. Whatever the circumstance may be, and maybe in a really dark challenge place right now. And it's like, fuck, how do I tap into my desire when all I want is just some semblance of peace or stability or health or whatever core basic need is, right? What would you say to those men that, aren't quite in the place of like, okay, I'm going to tap into my desire, my highest, connection to divine energy, and how do I make that connection there? Because I can hear men that are in a bad place just writing this whole thing off because they're not there, ironically.
Yeah. And listen, I liken this to an elevator, and I'll explain what I mean in a second. But if you're just trying to pay your bills and not get evicted because you lost your job, start there. It's not like I'm going to be a multimillionaire running an empire. That's a little bit of a leap from, for your subconscious mind, right? It's like, I've never been to the gym before, so I'm going to load up 425 on the bar and see if I can bench press it. I wouldn't recommend that. Not very realistic. Start with the bar. So if your goal, if you're in that situation where you're trying not to get evicted, start there, and not with, I don't want to get evicted. That's declaring what you don't want.
Right.
Affirm it from a place of it already being so. Speak from, not of, your desire. So I am, however you word that, I am, secure in my home. I am living in abundance with all my bills paid. Maybe that's it. Maybe start there. If it's, your situation is like you're so obese or so, injured with arthritis or whatever, that walking to your mailbox is hard. Okay, you're not going to run a marathon tomorrow. Start with, I can walk freely and easily with grace and joy. Start there. Build upon that. So I referenced the elevator, and when I had first moved to Los Angeles as an actor a long time ago, I say I'm a recovering actor now. I had this idea. It's the joke is, oh, you're an actor. Where do you wait tables? Right? Because it's a hard path in the beginning.
What Starbucks do you post up at during the day?
Well, and that's the funny that you mentioned that, because I took a job at Starbucks. I worked, as I actually had to work the till because I could never remember the recipe. So as a shitty barista, but my girlfriend at the time, she's like, why are you taking a job at Starbucks? It's minimal pay. It's whatever, I said, because right now I have no pay. And this is not the end all be all. I'm not going to make a career out of Starbucks. It's an elevator. Right. It's going to take me up a couple of floors. Will it get to the penthouse? No, I've got to get off this elevator, walk across the building, and get on a different elevator to go to the next level.
Right.
But this is still going to get me. Look, this tiny metal box is not the end all be all. That's not my destiny. But it's going to get me a little higher or a little further than where I am now. So that elevator concept, like, use that in your desires, use that in your inspirations. Like, if you're starting from A, maybe set B or C as your goal, not Z. Right. And then once you get B or C, D, E, F. Great. Now build from there.
Yeah. And I would add to push it a little further each time. Right. Yeah. And to go beyond what you think being the key word is possible.
Right.
Because the thinking mind still is going to be a very minimal range of what is really possible. So you need to stretch. We always say, not we, but in the culture, right? You got to go beyond your comfort zone. So it's like, okay, how are you? Yes. And you like to say yes and a lot, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not negating it. It's like, yeah, let me get to the point of paying my bills. And then this, always have that next thing that we're striving for, going for, that is just out of reach, because that's where desire, right, and the calling really comes from. It's like, I know I can see it now. I'm getting closer, right? Yesterday we paddled out. So there's the Captain Cook Monument here down in Kealakekua Bay. It's a very protected spot with a lot of really beautiful snorkeling, but it's like a 25-minute paddle. You got to paddle out past the breakers and then go out and get there, and you can see it in the distance. Mm-hmm. And kayaking is actually a lot of work. It's, I'm sore today. It's a lot of upper body work. It's constant. And I knew with every stroke, I was one stroke closer. And a mantra I'm always saying in my head is, it seems impossible till it's done. Right.
Yeah.
And it seems far away. And this one stroke isn't making that much of a difference. It feels like we're getting pushed back by the wind, all those things. And then, you know what? We were there. And it didn't matter what I had to do to get there. Once I was there, I didn't think about all the paddling and work it was. Maybe I reflected for a moment, but then I was there and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And it's such a simple example. It just happened yesterday, but I was literally in the moment reminding myself, like, it seems impossible till it's done.
Yep.
And then the ride home was that much quicker, because it was like, wow, I've already done this, right? Doesn't the ride home somewhere always seem shorter than the ride there that you've never been to?
Right.
It's because you've done it. You've covered that ground.
The hike back, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like remembering that in our desires, in what we crave, in what is beyond that next step, as you're talking about, I think is so key for men to get.
And I know
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you completely. It's that mindset. When so if I've done an hour and a half on the weights, I've got 45 minutes of cardio and then 15 minutes dry sauna afterwards. I'm like 20 minutes into cardio. I'm like, I do not want to be here. I do not want to be doing this. It's hard. But what I tell myself, that thought may go by like a leaf floating by in a stream, and that's all I let it be because I don't focus on it. When I see that I've got 20 minutes left, I go, cool, less than 20 minutes. Because in 1 second, it's literally going to be less than 20 minutes. It's 19 minutes and 59 seconds, 58, 57. I'm like, this is easy.
Yeah.
And then when the next minute goes by, I go, less than 18 minutes. This is easy.
Yep.
That's what I tell myself. That's the mindset. Are you focused on how hard it is, or are you focused on the progress you're making? Because it's that 3 feet from gold. Are you trusting that gold is there?
Yeah.
Just another step, another brick. Just keep building. Just keep moving forward. Just keep moving forward. If you can do that, your success is inevitable. And hold that focus on what you really desire. So, actionables. I know you're talking about wrap it up. We get to the actionables. Define it. Man, what is it that you really want in your life, for your health, for your finances, for your relationship? Get really, really clear. What do you want? What would you love?
Mm-hmm.
What would bring you joy? Once you define that, you can set a course from where you are to where you want to be, to what you really want. Right. And there's also, one of the new age personal development sayings, don't focus on the how, focus on the what. The how is God's business.
Yep.
Right. The universe, again, I don't need to say this every time. Right. The how is none of your business, because there are ways and means unseen to you, unknown to you, that are possible. You just focus on the what. Take the steps that you see that are in front of you. That's the only how that you focus on. It's like, what action can I take right now in the direction of my dreams?
Mm-hmm.
And then allow the rest of the process to take place, as long as you keep doing that action and keep focusing on that affirmation, keep focusing on that intention, thinking from your desires, not of them. Right? Put yourself in the place of them already being so. Give thanks, gratitude for them already being so every day. Watch how fast your life transforms.
Beautiful. I'm going to add one actionable on here as well, because I think this would be helpful. Sometimes it's hard to look at ourselves, right? And say, okay, what do I desire? So it's easier when you have someone else. Let's say you're in a relationship, and it's like, okay, why don't you start by focusing on this other person's desires and fulfilling that and getting in tune, in touch with what theirs are, to help self-reflect. I'm not dismissing what you're saying at all. I'm saying tap into that. For some men, maybe a challenge. And what I wanted to offer was a simple thing. Oftentimes, I know I in the past have heard, let's say my wife's desires or something she did, and we talked about that acknowledgement piece, and I'll immediately go to what didn't work about it or what I didn't like about it. And something we've learned to do in our family is to give 3 pieces of positive feedback first, and then any constructive feedback, right? And I know it kind of crosses over with desire versus just acknowledgement, but I think those two things are very related. And so for ourselves, like, how often will we immediately shut down or deflect, as we said before, our desire versus like, wow, that's actually a really good idea. I would love more of that. Like 3 positive things about what we're wanting or desiring or seeing in someone else. And then, okay, I need to pivot or make change here, or here's some constructive feedback. I have found that both internally and with another person is received much better than going right. You know what you did wrong there? You know why that won't work?
Yeah.
That desire. So amplifying the quote unquote positive before going into any sort of cutting down or deflecting or negativity around it.
So what I'm hearing you say, correct me if I'm wrong, is focus on amplifying, not diminishing your partner's desire.
Correct.
Right? Build it up. Don't destroy it. Don't nitpick it. And if you are in a relationship defining your partner's desires as well as your own and making fulfilling them part of your mission as a man can be fuel to your life. Am I hearing that correctly?
You got it. Have you been listening? I think this is a super important conversation and can really lead to a lot of amazing manifestations, whether health, wealth, in relationship, men tapping into their mission, their purpose. That's what we're here to do. Yeah. So really good stuff here.
And I will add again, man, if you're listening to this and it's added any value to your life or even giving you something to think about, share it, please. Help us get this message out there. Share it, like it, subscribe, and we would love to hear from you in the comments. You know, any reflection on what you've heard or any results you've had from implementing what we've said. That would be a great gift for us. So thank you for that.
Thank you for mentioning that. Agreed. Have a beautiful day out there, men. Would love to know what you desire.